The worst pain isn't the body breaking down, it's your own child wishing you were dead. It was over something as small as spilled tea. My hand trembled as it often does now, and the cup tilted splashing onto the lace tablecloth. That lace had been in our family for years, but the stain wasn't permanent. The words she flung at me, those will never wash out. You're a rotten burden. Every damn day it's something. My name is Margaret Walker. I'm 71 years old, and I've lived with Parkinson's disease for the last 6. It's a cruel companion, a thief that steals in slow motion. First it took my handwriting, then my ability to cook, drive, walk without help, and now it's taking my dignity. I never asked to move in with my daughter Emily. She insisted when the diagnosis worsened. You'll be safer with me, she said. We'll take care of each other. That was 3 years ago. Back then, she hugged me every morning. Now she winces if I need help to the bathroom. She slams doors when she thinks I move too slowly. I've heard her hiss on the phone to her husband. I can't even breathe without hearing that walker scraping the floor. I wish I could walk like I used to. I wish I didn't need help dressing or remembering my pills. But the one thing I still have is memory, and it's sharper than ever. That morning after the tea incident, she didn't just shout. She threw the cup in the sink so hard it shattered. Her 5-year-old son, Jacob, was watching from the hallway. She didn't even notice him. I can't do this anymore, she shouted. You ruin everything. You've ruined me. I wanted to respond, but I couldn't. My throat felt like sand. All I could do was tremble and watch the woman I raised spit venom like a stranger. Her face flushed red, her jaw tight, didn't look like my little girl at all. She left the kitchen without another word. I heard her call someone. Maybe the home again. Maybe her husband. I didn't care. I just stared at the tea stains, slowly blooming across the lace, thinking of how I used to make that tea for her when she was 7, chamomile with honey, just how she liked it when she'd come home crying after school. What changed? When did love turn into loathing? And yet I didn't cry, not yet, because deep in my bones I felt something shift. That day, that morning, would not be the end of my story. Not the final image of me, an old woman in a stained robe being screamed at like trash. No, something dark and patient stirred in me. I didn't know it then, but I was about to show Emily the parts of our family's past she had conveniently forgotten, and when I did, she would collapse. That night I heard Emily talking on the phone again. Her voice was hushed, but anger doesn't hide easily, especially not in this house where the walls remember everything. She's just sitting there all day useless. I can't live like this anymore. We should have put her in that home last year. There was a pause. Then she added with a bitter laugh, she probably won't even notice when we move her out. Her brain's halfway gone already. She was wrong. My mind, though slower than before, is intact. My memory is the only fire I have left, and it burns bright, especially when it comes to her. Her birth, her first fall, the day her father walked out and left us both crying on the porch. I was the one who carried her, worked 3 jobs, skipped meals so she could eat. I sold my wedding ring to pay her tuition. But none of that lives in her memory anymore. All she sees now is the tremble in my hand and the chair in the corner I rarely leave. The next morning, she placed a brochure next to my toast. Sunny Pines, it said, a community of care and dignity. I looked up. Her face was cold, businesslike. I called yesterday. They have a room opening in 2 weeks. It's clean, quiet, and far. Far, I whispered. She sighed, annoyed. It's 2 hours out. You'll be fine. I'll visit when I can. A room, not a home. She didn't even look at me when she took my plate away before I'd finished. That afternoon, I overheard her on a video call with the real estate agent. She was talking about repainting the house and renovating for resale. She was already planning a life without me in it. That night, the guilt must have crept into her dreams. She brought me a hot water bottle and adjusted my blanket without saying a word. For a moment, I thought I saw regret in her eyes. But it vanished the second I asked gently, will Jacob understand? She scoffed. He'll understand that this house isn't a nursing ward. And then came the words that carved into my chest like a blade. You're not a mother anymore. You're a rotten burden. The silence after that was louder than the insult. I didn't respond. I couldn't. She turned and left. But I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, every breath slow and deliberate, as something inside me, something I thought had died, started to wake. I couldn't move fast. I couldn't shout or strike back. But I could remember. And upstairs, buried under years of dust and shadows, was something she'd forgotten. A box. A trunk. The truth. And soon I'd make sure she saw it. It was 3 days later when the storm hit. The wind shrieked like a banshee outside, and the rain lashed against the windows with a fury that made the whole house groan. Emily was already in a mood. Her meeting had been canceled, and Jacob was restless. I stayed quiet, wheeling myself from the kitchen to the living room, hoping to go unnoticed. No such luck. By evening, the power flickered. Emily stomped into the room, her hair frizzed from the humidity, and hissed through clenched teeth. If I hear that walker scrape one more time, I swear to God. She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she grabbed my arm and said with a smile so fake it made my skin crawl, "Why don't you go up to the attic? It's quieter there. I need the living room to be functional." I blinked. "The attic, that's not." "I already put a chair and a lamp up there," she interrupted. "Go, please." And just like that, I found myself struggling up those narrow stairs, breath-hitching joints, aching my walker useless on the ladder steps. She followed behind, holding the door open. When I reached the top, she shoved the chair in and muttered, "Perfect, peace and quiet." Then she shut the attic door behind me. I heard the click of the lock. I knocked. Emily. No answer. I knocked again. Emily opened the door. Nothing, only her footsteps retreating. And then faintly her voice downstairs on the phone. "She's in the attic. Yes, locked. No, she can't go anywhere. I just needed some damn space." I froze. She hadn't locked me in by mistake. She had done it on purpose. And in that moment, standing in the stale air and darkness, surrounded by old furniture and forgotten boxes, something in me shattered, but not the way she expected. Not into weakness, into clarity. I sank into the chair shaking, not from illness, but from the weight of the betrayal. My daughter had locked me away like an object, a piece of clutter. And then my eyes adjusted. In the corner under a moth-eaten tarp was a trunk, wooden, old, heavy. I remembered it immediately. It had belonged to my late mother. Inside were things Emily hadn't seen since she was a child and others she'd never seen at all. I hadn't opened it in decades. With effort, I dragged it to me and pried it open. Inside, letters from her father, the man who abandoned us. Receipts showing how I'd paid off his debts. A journal with every job I'd worked to support her schooling. Photos of her in the hospital after her accident. And the second mortgage I took out to pay for her surgery. I stared at the evidence of a life lived for her, sacrifices stacked like tombstones. And beneath it all's a tape recorder, labeled for Emily when she's old enough. She never listened to it, but now she would. The wind outside howled like a creature in mourning, but inside the attic, I felt strangely calm. My hands trembled, not just from Parkinson's, but from the weight of what I held. I pressed play. My voice crackled through the old recorder, younger, steadier. I remembered the day I recorded it, Emily's 12th birthday. She had cried herself to sleep after her father didn't show up. Again. "Emily, if you ever hear this, I want you to know the truth. Your father didn't leave because of you. He left because he couldn't handle life. I begged him to stay. I gave him everything I had. I even paid off his gambling debts just to keep him near you. But he vanished, and I promised myself you'd never feel abandoned. So I worked, I scraped, I bled for you." The recording ended in static. My younger self didn't cry. She just sounded tired and full of love. I set the recorder aside. I didn't know how long I sat there before I heard footsteps. The attic door creaked open, flooding the room with yellow hallway light. Emily appeared in the doorway, holding a tray of cold soup and a bottle of pills like a peace offering, or maybe just an obligation. Her eyes widened when she saw the trunk open. "What is this?" she asked, her voice cautious. I didn't answer. I simply pointed to the tape recorder. She rolled her eyes. Mom, I don't have time. Sit, I said, voice low but firm. Something in my tone must have startled her because she obeyed. She pressed play. The attic was silent, except for the voice of a younger me pouring her heart out. I didn't look at her while it played. I just watched her reflection in the dusty attic window. Her smug face collapsed into something pale, unfamiliar guilt. The tape ended. She said nothing. I handed her a letter. It was from her father, written the day he left. In it, he blamed me for pushing him to be a man and confessed that he had lied to Emily about me. She read it. Her lip trembled. Then came the journal. Page after page of my life, waitressing, cleaning houses, working night shifts while she slept safe and warm. The scribbled notes of debt surgeries, fevers, and her name again and again. Emily's mouth opened, but no sound came. Then she saw the photo, her in a hospital bed hooked to wires, and the second mortgage contract I'd signed that same day. Mom, she whispered finally. I didn't know. No, I said. You didn't want to know. She looked up, eyes glossy. I'm sorry. I nodded slowly. You locked me away like a mistake. Tears spilled from her eyes. I didn't mean to. I felt trapped. Trapped, I smiled. You don't know trapped, but now you do. She collapsed beside the trunk and wept like a child. I didn't comfort her. Not yet. Emily curled up on the attic floor, surrounded by the relics of my sacrifices like they were tombstones. She clutched the letter from her father, her sobs ragged and sharp, the kind that don't come from surface guilt, but from a deep, cracking realization. For once, I didn't feel the need to fill the silence. It spoke louder than I ever could. I thought you were just tired of life, she said, eventually wiping her eyes. I didn't know how much you gave up. I thought you were just always there. Always there, I repeated, like wallpaper. She winced. I looked down at my trembling hands. You saw me shaking and thought I was weak. But I carried you, Emily. Even when my back broke, I carried your shame, your silence, your choices. I buried parts of myself to raise you. I didn't ask you to, she said too quickly, defensively, but her eyes betrayed her regret. No, you didn't ask. You never had to. She sat still for a moment, lips parted, hands gripping the old documents like lifelines. Then quietly, I just wanted my life back. And I wanted a daughter who didn't flinch when I coughed. Her head dropped like a stone. I deserve that. I nodded. You do. There was a long pause. Finally, she asked, barely above a whisper, what do you want me to do? I looked at her, then really looked, not as my child, but as a grown woman who had lost her way in resentment and guilt. I want you, I said, to live with the memory of what you said. Not because I want to punish you, but because I want you to learn what bitterness costs. She closed her eyes. I'll cancel the home, she mumbled. You can stay. I'll do better. I swear. No, I said calmly. I'm leaving. She looked up shocked. But where will you? I'll go to Sunny Pines. Not because you forced me, but because I want to. I need peace, Emily, not pity. She stood abruptly. I'll come visit every week. I shook my head. You don't need to promise anything. Just start being the kind of woman your son will remember without shame. Tears returned to her eyes. She nodded silently. We descended the attic stairs together, slow and quiet, like walking through the ruins of a battlefield. Jacob peeked from around the corner, eyes wide. Emily knelt and hugged him tight, whispering something I couldn't hear. I didn't need to. The truth had landed like thunder in her soul. She wouldn't forget again. And I, for the first time in years, felt light. Not because I was healed, but because I was finally heard. The morning I left, the sky was clear, soft gold, spilling through the window like a quiet apology. Emily helped me pack. She moved slower, gentler now, her hands unsure, her mouth quiet. She offered to drive me to Sunny Pines, but I told her I'd already called a car service. I needed to walk out on my own terms, not as a burden dragged to the curb, but as a mother choosing freedom. She nodded. I could see it hurt her, but this pain was different. Not the lashing kind she used to deliver, but the aching, cleansing sort. I left something for you upstairs, I said as I rolled my suitcase toward the front door. What is it? She asked. A mirror, I replied, pausing. The kind that doesn't reflect your face, but your choices. She didn't smile, she just looked down. I stepped outside without waiting for her answer. The breeze felt good on my face, a small mercy. My knees screamed, but I didn't care. The world outside that house looked bigger now, fuller, even in my state. As the driver loaded my bags, I saw Jacob rush out of the house, clutching something in his little hand. "Grandma," he shouted, running up to me. I bent down as best I could. He placed a crayon drawing into my hand, a picture of me, him, and a big yellow sun above us. Underneath, in wobbly letters, "I love you, Grandma." Tears finally came, then hot and sudden. "I love you too," I whispered, "more than you'll ever know." Emily stood on the porch, arms crossed tightly. Not in anger, but in a strange kind of grief. Watching her mother leave, watching herself in the mirror of consequence, I stepped into the car. As we pulled away, I didn't look back. But I knew somewhere behind me, Emily was still standing at that door, holding that attic truth like a burning coal in her chest. And I hoped it would light her path. Sunny Pines isn't fancy, but it's quiet. The nurses are kind. There's a cherry blossom tree outside my window, and in spring, it snows petals instead of silence. I read, I write, I remember. Sometimes Emily calls, sometimes she doesn't. I don't need her to, because what I gave her, what I left in that attic, will stay louder than any apology. Let her wrestle with that truth. Me, I'm done wrestling. I've earned my peace. If you're listening to this, and you've ever been made to feel like a burden, just because your body is failing you, please know this: your worth does not diminish with age, illness, or dependence. It only grows deeper, richer with every sacrifice and memory you carry. I spent years believing silence was strength, that enduring cruelty from someone I loved was the price of being a mother. But silence can become a prison, and even the softest voice can shake a house when it speaks the truth. To the caregivers out there, love is not duty, it's grace. And to those who receive care, you are not weak. You are living proof of resilience. Speak your truth. Leave behind the evidence of your love. And if they've forgotten who you are, make them remember. Because sometimes the attic holds more than dust. It holds the reckoning.